Hi, and welcome to another edition of Bauer's Business Bites. My name is David Tighe. I'm the Managing Director of Bauer Media here in Northern Ireland. And each week we gain some useful insight and information from executives right across Northern Ireland and beyond. And this week I'm really pleased to welcome our guest, Joanna Denton, who's an executive and public speaking coach. Joanna, welcome to Business Bites.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
Well, it's great to see you, and let's get straight into the conversation. So, tell us, if you can, briefly, how did you become an executive and public speaking coach? What's the journey been for you?
Well, that's a great question, particularly when you consider that in a previous life, I was a tax geek. I was a tax geek specializing in VAT, working for big four companies, first of all in the UK and then in Luxembourg. By 2014, I was 16 years into my career. I was director in the firm, and on the face of it, some definition of success. I was the go-to person for clients and teams. I was a role model for other women in my department, and I was talking on stages all around Europe and further afield. But behind that facade of success, to be perfectly honest, my life was falling apart. I was going through my second burnout in 5 years. I was super glued to the sofa, didn't want to eat, didn't want to wash, didn't want to go outside. And I definitely did not want to tell anyone what I was going through. But it was around that time that a friend of mine died by suicide, and his death made me realize I needed to change my life. So I left tax. I started coaching around public speaking, first of all in an in-house role, and then with my own business as of 2016. And then in 2018, I moved back to Northern Ireland. Along the way, I've expanded the scope of my coaching. I've done 2 TEDx talks about my experience. I've written a book. And today I'm helping stressed out executives who are exhausted from spinning 142 different plates at a time get back some space and some control in their lives so that they can breathe again and start to enjoy what it is that they do once more.
Wow. And I know that you and I have spoken off air, and there's a lot more to the story that you've just told in about 2 minutes than what you've said there. But it is a fascinating story, and obviously, real condolences about your friend who passed away. You are in the position you are now. I suppose my question would be, what have you learned? You're speaking to executives. What are the common themes that are kind of coming through, and how are people coping with these current stressful times that we're in, and how are you helping them to move on?
You know, I think at the moment in particular with COVID, it's a whole new ball game like we've never seen before. You know, we as leaders and executives, we're having to take decisions based on very little information. We're taking on maybe more things because our teams have been out in furlough or maybe self-isolating. And there's this constant level of stress and emotions that are coming up that, you know, that people aren't able to express and move through. I do think that one of the positive things about COVID is that people are reassessing and reasserting what's important in their lives. There's also a lot more conversations about mental health and a call for executives to check in with their people and see how they're doing. But I think really what I want to talk about today is the fact that, yes, that's all well and good, but don't forget yourself. Don't forget your own health. Don't forget kind of reaching out and talking about that, because I think for leaders and executives, it's incredibly difficult to talk about mental health of themselves. It's maybe easier to talk about when it's for their teams or almost theoretical in that way, but when it's for yourself, that takes a lot of courage because, well, for a start, they may not even see what's going on. You know, in my instance, I was a floating head. My body's only objective was to get me from one meeting to another, but I had no idea until I crashed and burned. But I think also there's this aspect that if you ask for help and reach out, it's going to be a sign of weakness. And there's maybe a concern that if in doing so, that others are just going to define you as this kind of broken doll and they don't know what to do about it. So I think the one thing I'm seeing is these conversations, but also this reticence about speaking out and not wanting to ask for help.
Yeah, I think that makes absolute sense. You have, and you are running a program that helps, aren't you?
Yeah, so I'm launching what I'm calling a burnoutbuster program, which is essentially it's very practical and very strategy based. It's about sitting down with the client and just talking about what's really going on and what the key issues are. What I'm seeing in particular as causes of this sort of plate spinning and everything else can range from just thinking they have to do it all by themselves. It can also include not having effective boundaries in place. And I mean, boundaries is a big word, but it's even just kind of saying no once in a while and not taking on all of those extra responsibilities. And I think also sometimes the overwhelm can come when you have all of these different things to do and no one thing ever seems to get done. And so the idea of this program is just to find strategies that can be very tangible, very concrete, immediately put into action as you walk out the door. Just something to start to get some of that control and headspace back. It's not necessarily a quick journey to suddenly everything is wonderful. At the end of the day, COVID is going on and it will continue to be with us for a while. But it's about starting to get some headspace, starting to get a sense of control so you can see the light at the end of the tunnel and to be able to move forward.
Well, that sounds like a really good plan, and I would encourage anyone who's watching this that does need to reach out to anybody. But of course, you, Joanna, have got some specific skills and attributes that can help specifically if people are feeling stressed right now in a leadership position. And you've managed to write a book as well as the talks. So tell us a little bit about the book.
So the book is called A Different Truth, and it's about rejecting the truths that are killing your career and start to make choices that are better for you. Essentially, what this book is about shining a light on some of the stories that we tell ourselves that become so ingrained that it becomes the truth. Now, those could be stories from the inner critic, I'm not good enough, I'm not ready for this. But they can also be stories like, it should be enough that I've done a good job, I don't need to tell anybody else. Or I'm on my own to do this. Helping and serving others means sacrificing my own health. So it's a book that's meant to be very, very practical. It shines a light on some of those stories with some examples and anecdotes of my own career, and then it goes into a number of different very practical exercises. If you've only got 5 minutes, here's one thing you can do. But if you've got a bit more time, here are 3 exercises that might take half an hour, might take 4 weeks, just to be able to work through that story to that different truth.
Okay, well, that's going to be on my list for Christmas. I'm absolutely certain of that. Just as a final question, as we are running out of time, unfortunately, we could talk for a lot longer. Is there any just practical advice that you could give to anyone who might be watching this right now who is struggling and who's at a moment in time?
I would say find your people. I would say remember that one person that you know, at least one person I'm sure, who has your back, who loves you for who you are, is not going to look at you in disappointment if you reach out to them for help and support, is not going to enter into some kind of pity fest about who's more exhausted. And reach out to that person and just say hi, just say hello, just say, can we have a chat? I really want to talk. I really need some support. And I would just say, do that. Find your people. You do not need to go through this alone.
Well, Joanna, it's been absolutely fascinating to talk with you. There's more information available at the end. Your contact details are going to be shown up, and obviously there's more in the book as well. I'm sure we'll be talking again, and it just leaves me to say thank you very much for being our guest this week.
Well, thank you for having me.